washing blood with blood. It was just smearing it. So, never realizing that consciousness cannot be eradicated by more consciousness, by more interpretation, by more knowing. Knowing can only create problems. Actually, not knowing and knowledge is a problem. How is that? As I said, consciousness is like a collage or the web, enormously intricate web. In each of us, different web, different collage of accumulated thousands of misperceived yesterdays. And we don't have enough time in this short expose to go into it, why is the misperceived, but in course of dialogue we can raise that question and we can go into it. You see yourself, as long as you are that consciousness and we are. That much we can know, that we are our consciousness. I am what I think, what I believe, what I know, what I hold cherished through the knowledge, what I read, what people told me, what I said to myself. All of these accumulations in some way is our consciousness. Can you imagine through what a pollution do we look at each other? Through what a pollution we look at anything. Even in nature, there we kind of a drop some of the consciousness because you really don't need it there. There's no reason. But in any other situation, we are on our toes. What will they think about me? What do I think of them? What is this? What is that? Will they agree, disagree, and all of that? So in what way consciousness is doing the mischief that it is doing? In what way consciousness is, as Krishnamurti called, monkey mind, operating, chattering mechanically? Consciousness is basically knowledge. It's based on memory. It's based on many memories stored up in the brain cells. It's very intricate. I was going in the last few years through where is the memory located. And many people say, well, in the brain cell. Well, no, that's saying nothing. Of course, we know all that. Certainly it is in the brain cell. It is, I was really touched a little even because this is my area, that in the brain, the memory is located as an indentation in the large protein molecules. There are billions and billions of indentations in these molecules in the brain. Consciousness starts with the memory. You cannot be conscious if you don't have a memory. Memory is in the moment we remember, in this moment we begin to think, to know. So what is? The knowing and memory are not two different things. You see, we are trying to break everything. There is a memory, there is a knowledge, there is an image. No, this is all one same thing. Actually, knowing and consciousness or being conscious of is really, in a moment you remember, you are thinking. Memory, the thought is a ripple of the memory. It's an excitation of the memory. So you could see the memory, that many memories being stored up, and these are not just personal memories, but a collective, what I would call the archetypal, mythopoetic, so-called religious, aesthetic memories. All of that stuff, in a moment gets triggered, and rippling produces a very complex thinking. So the question is, when the thinking is in the picture, when it operates, In what way? Why would that be a problem? Again, very shortly, one can touch that by saying that thought, one of the most essential quality of thought is that it is limited. It is kind of a hermetically closed circle. It's like a keyhole. So if I look through that consciousness at you or anything, I look through a keyhole. All I will see, what that particularly thought, that aspect of my consciousness is triggered. What that thought can take in. So the shape in which that thought is, I take it as you. So one aspect of thought, of consciousness, is being so limited that it is an isolation. It is a prison. Just the very presence of consciousness, before even getting out of you as a projection, that already feels, I am isolated, I am lonely. Actually, consciousness as thought corners reality. Vast, immensely, limitless living presence is being cornered into the little corner. I will tell you, I was stunned by the etymology of the key words like anguish, anger, angst, anxiety, that all of these start with the Latin word ango. They have a Latin word which means corner, which means being cornered. These things happen. There is no anxiety if there isn't that thought. There is no suffering and angst and anger if there isn't that thought. Thought actually corners. Thought really, and consciousness as a complex thought, is really rendering us being in one little corner of the universe. No wonder we feel, is that all? And another aspect, enormously effective and debilitating aspect of consciousness is not only isolation, as loneliness that we know, and which is different from what Mark talked about, aloneness that has nothing to do with loneliness. On the contrary, it is all oneness that really is something radically different, but that will not happen as long as that consciousness is operable. That other aspect that is also creating enormous havoc in the world is that the thought acts like incantation that is capable of casting a spell of reality. Actually, thought, that consciousness, brings forth virtual reality that actually does not exist. We see not what is, we see what we want to see. And I don't mean in a simple conscious way what I want, in a most complex way what everything in my consciousness wants to see. The third aspect of consciousness as a problem is that because it is limited, it is isolative and divisive and creates conflict. It creates a distance. Consciousness, thanks to consciousness, we all feel outsiders. I feel outsiders to everybody. Actually, thought being limited produces this virtual sense of inside and outside, me and you, us and them, this and that. And there isn't me and you. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking language, and we again don't have a time to go so much into that today, but through the course of the weekend, language is totally a replica of this dysfunctional phenomenon called human consciousness. So, this creates these of being outsider. And then I want to mention, and conflict, and I want to mention another aspect of consciousness, that is the consciousness wanting to correct itself. The more consciousness wants to correct itself, it does through some other aspects of consciousness. So consciousness everlastingly is perpetuating itself, because consciousness essentially is problematic. So then we invented solutions cleverly, and solutions are equally problematic as our problems. Because I wrote once an essay on, what is his name, from California. He wrote a book, I think I wrote a review on that book. Something. I'm blocking this as many years ago. But it was about that solutions are only disguised problems. If you look into what is solution, it comes desires, ideals, and all of that comes into the same category. They all being part of consciousness, aspect of consciousness. They all being a thought. They all have if you look problem and solution, they have the same qualities, and therefore solutions are really not solutions but disguised problems. So whole developmental model, which is kind of a series of solutions, is the human development and becoming, is really a bankrupt thing, because the more you try to improve yourself, the worse you make it. The end solutions don't need a cosmetic change through our solutions, through our solutions. Problems need to be ended. Actually, the wonderful word solution never meant it etymologically to say to improve. It meant to dissolve. Solvens in Latin means that which melts it, that which dissolves it. So, Krishnamurti was proposing, instead of doing something to problems, not to do anything, but in seeing them, they will dissolve. What is false will just melt away. We will work again on that one for that one. So, and I want to still say a couple things here, and that is, we live with all that consciousness. One of the most disastrous things about a consciousness, that it has a virtual center. Self. Self is a ghost. Self actually doesn't exist unless you think something. If you don't think, there's no self. It's simple as that. You don't need to be enlightened to be selfless. If there is no thinking, there is no self. It's simple as that. If you look at a thought being periphery, hermetically closed periphery, like in mathematics, in geometry, each periphery has a center, virtual center. Even if you don't put a dot with your pen, there is a center there. Actually, self is that kind of a delicate, feeble, virtual thing, as whatever you think, it has a center, and that is the self. And could be some subtle thinking, you are not even aware that you are thinking, but the self is kind of there. So, what we are doing as it is, and through millennia it was like that. We live it's like a chicken coop. We kind of live in consciousness. We live on that consciousness and on that center that is rather powerful. That center, as feeble, is powerful because we don't see what it is. We don't see what is it doing. The question is, can we live can we live without thought? Of course, thought is needed in a pragmatic area. But I was saying to myself laughingly, after I saw Magritte's exhibition of his, and I saw his famous painting of a pipe. Actually, this one is in Chicago, is this painting, Chicago Art Institute. There he painted a pipe, and in French underneath he said, "This is not the pipe." And then I would say, can we operate like that? Bring me the pipe that is not the pipe, and you who are not you, why don't you come here to me who is not me? Now that sounds ridiculous to speak like that, but as ridiculous as it is more actual, more accurate than to say, I'm so sure this is you and I'm so sure that it is me. Can one operate in mechanical matters, in pragmatic matters, but seeing them, that they are only, that the world of things, the phenomenal world, one may say, are actually only pragmatic. The things are not solid. They are only pragmatic assumptions. But for some reason, we in our mind decided they are fundamental issues in human life. It's amazing. It's a very clever thing, actually, that we did, actually, and that cleverness is like shooting yourself in the knee, kind of, because we really are paying the price for that cleverness. If I go to a movie, I know it is a movie. No matter how convincingly real it is, and so many times it's very convincingly real. But I know it is a movie. There's no problem with that. We don't want to see this is a movie. I think our life would be enormously richer if we would see this, what we see as a fundamental reality, is a movie that doesn't diminish this. It just says it what it truly is. So in seeing this is a movie, there is a transparency of that enormous vastness. I call it the draft of the absolute in every detail. You may be at work, you may be doing anything, washing dishes, and you have besides washing dishes, you have a draft of the infinity. In here, there's no dualism anymore. This is illusion and this is reality. It is only illusion if you think it is something that it isn't. The pragmatic world is a necessary illusion. As a matter of fact, and we don't have time to go into that, universe wanted it that way. Universe rendered it is illusion, but in some. Actually, the word ludere, which illusion comes from, means two things. Means illusion and means play. All even higher animals like to play. Our pragmatic world is a play. It's a wonderful play. But no, we don't see it just as a wonderful play. We see that's how it absolutely is. But it isn't. Just one more thing I want to say. Through consciousness, we developed a strong, very solid sense of thingness. Things, outside things, and then inside things. Particularly the arch thing, myself. So that thingness rendered to us that life is an ontological phenomenon. Life is, the being is the fundamental thing. Even wonderful late philosopher Martin Heidegger wrote about time and being, and he was writing about how that finally there's we are looking for the subtlest being, not just a word being, but what is the being of the being, at the very core, what is this? Actually, being is in the face of is, very prosaic thing. Not unnecessary, but very prosaic actually. It's a very small phenomenon in the loo, in the face of is. So what is really the point of Krishnamurti's talks if not a shift of our living from ontological to essential living, esse. In Latin, esse means is, and Greek, and onto in Greek meaning be. Because being caught into things, we are caught into all this problematic of being isolated, of being outsider to everything and everybody. No matter what you bring in, you bring other isolated people. Two isolated people will make just more isolation, or will rub it in that your isolation is even more visible. With this, and again through the course of the weekend, we will look into it, is relationship. And that was shocking to me, because I thought relationship is alpha and omega of life. Any relationship, in nature, relationship between stars, moon, earth, relationship between people, elements and everything. Is this really a fundamental thing? You know more than through anything else, but through your relationships, that no matter how good they are problematic. And I would say, if you say they are not, you're lying. They are problematic even at its best. Because how could two people who are locked up into their respected consciousness, there is no togetherness. If two people, I am myself and you're yourself, I understand, because self is loneliness. I want to bail myself out of that loneliness. I want something to bail me out. But you're the last one to bail me out. Doesn't bail you out because you bring yourself and aggressive. They're two lonely people together. They are trying to compromise, or they are trying to overtly to fight. But then I said to myself, because that was scary, and for me as a therapist, that was a very key thing, because essence of therapy is how to have a good relationship, right? And I said to myself, you're not going to have it through as it is, through relationship. So then I thought, are we just some kind of a doomed, is this a nihilistic position? There's nothing then, we are just kind of a mistake? No. I really think, as long as there's consciously in self, there is a problem. There will be inevitably a problem. Consciousness is a problem, walking problem. You may go to Tibet, you may go to Kyoto, you may go wherever you want. Wherever I go, here I am. All right. If you go to marriage, here I am. And the other person, here I am. Can two people be together? Yes. And I think they can be. If the self breaks, then you are all one. And if the other one is in that mode, there is a resonance. That resonance doesn't have the typical relationship burdens of jealousy, of distrust, of fighting, or do it my way, do it your way. In this, we don't have that. We really never had that, actually. I'm sure maybe somewhere happened, or maybe it is moving in that direction, but it is not something very common that one can easily see. So that made me feel good that I could talk very clearly that relationship not only doesn't work, but cannot work. Because if you say this relationship doesn't work, you will want to look for somebody else. So you will say, well, this one didn't work, but some others will work. So I really feel relationship not only doesn't work, but cannot work. But it doesn't mean that two people cannot be in the most wonderful way together. And if there is a resonance, and that resonance then it can carry anywhere, with nature, with anything, wherever I can have this resonance. I would say to the people in therapy, be in love with life, be in love with the moments. If you're capable to be in love with the moments, then there is a possibility that may catch on fire, or another person is that person is not jealous and distrustful of me, that person is just enjoying it. You drop the guard of yourself, and you realize I don't need it. I saw that the only place clearly in human life where you don't need the self is with nature. Why do you think is that so? Why is that? Why do you need to have any self with nature when you see? You go alone and you watch the trees, mountains and everything. Why do you need self there? Why you don't need self there? Can anybody ever?
There's no perceived feedback.
Yes. What did you say?
Yeah, that's kind of related. You don't need to present it an image for it to give you the feedback.
Nature doesn't have a self, will not judge you, will not develop image of you, and you don't need to be defensive, right? In all other situations you have to be, as you said, defensive. So, when I was thinking, Krishnamurti doesn't propose any formal meditation, and I feel strongly about it also. Formal meditation still is another gimmick. Maybe brilliant gimmick, ancient gimmick, or whatever. But the one way of, if you start to drop the self with another person, you're not going to drop it. Because this is such a strong, other person has such a strong self of you, you have to kind of respond back. But if you, and I hate the word practice, I don't want to use that because that's a mechanical word, I want you to go and practice with nature. As you go to nature, notice just you don't have a self there. Most of the time. I mean, there are some people who are so stuck with that they would have an image even in nature. So go there. The more this is, when you come to a human being, you will be less eager to have the self. And then it goes.
Okay. What did I tell you? This is a big subject. And our challenge in approaching it with a dialogue is to see that it doesn't become an intellectual exercise. We have to keep it real, actual, factual. And in that, we have the challenge and the opportunity through looking at our own thoughts, our own lives. And we can completely bypass the intellectual side of it. So, we will start on that tomorrow morning, after we've had some breakfast and some time alone. We thought this evening we would play for you a tape of Krishnamurti speaking in Switzerland in 1983. The visual is a one-camera shot of Krishnamurti, but it is so distorted, you won't be able to listen.
Just like real life.
Yeah. So we've covered it with the bedspread, and all we'll do is listen.
I love it.
Okay.
Now if we can just do that when we speak to each other, just put a bag over it.
A bag over, yeah.
May I just ask how long it is, Mark?
It's, because it's the end of a question and answer session, I think it's short. It'll be less than half an hour.
We know